Ever looked at your child and wondered why they seem to be pulling away, even though you've given them everything? You've worked the long hours in a high-rise in Chicago. You've driven them to every soccer practice in the suburbs, and you've always told them you love them. But somehow, there's a wall. Most parents believe that good intentions are enough to raise a healthy, successful human being. But the truth is, some of the most dangerous parenting mistakes aren't the ones involving shouting or neglect. They are the quiet, subtle habits, the things we do while we're trying to be good parents, that actually erode a child's sense of self and their ability to trust the world. Today, we are breaking down the 7 dangerous parenting mistakes many parents make without even realizing it. We're going to look at the psychological why behind these patterns and, more importantly, how you can flip the script starting tonight. This isn't about guilt, it's about awareness. This foundation in the United States admit to using control-based tactics rather than guidance-based ones, often without knowing the difference. We live in a society that prizes results. Whether you're in New York City or Los Angeles, the pressure to produce a perfect child is immense. But this pressure leads us into traps. Think about this situation. It's a Tuesday night. Your 10-year-old is struggling with math homework. They start to cry. You say, "It's just math. Stop crying and just focus. You're fine." You think you're being encouraging. You think you're teaching toughness. But what the child hears is, "My feelings are wrong, and I cannot trust my own internal experience." That is mistake number 1, dismissing emotions. When we tell a child they are fine when they are clearly in distress, we are essentially gaslighting them. Over time, that child stops coming to you when things get hard, because they've learned that their vulnerability is a burden or a mistake. Son and say, "Why can't you sit still like him? Look how polite he is." It seems like a harmless push for better behavior, right? Wrong. That child now feels that your love is conditional, based on how they measure up to others. They begin to develop a performance identity. They think, "I am only worthy if I am better than the kid next to me." This leads to chronic anxiety and a lifelong struggle with imposter syndrome. And then there's tin huang ba, the failure to repair. You lose your temper. You yell. You might even say something mean. Later, when you've calmed down, you just act like nothing happened. You make them dinner. You're nice again. But you never actually say, "I'm sorry I yelled. I was frustrated, but that wasn't your fault." By avoiding the apology, you are teaching them that power means never having to take responsibility. You are teaching them that in a relationship, the person with the most power gets to hurt the other without consequence. These mistakes create a ripple effect. According to a 20-year longitudinal study from a top-tier university, children who experience frequent emotional invalidation are 60% more likely to struggle with clinical anxiety and depression in their 20s. When we prioritize control over connection, we are essentially building a house on sand. We might get the good grades or the quiet behavior in the short term, but we are destroying the foundation of resilience. These children grow up into adults who can't set boundaries, who don't know how to handle conflict, and who are constantly seeking external validation because they never learned how to value themselves from the inside out. Why is this so critically urgent? Because we are currently in the golden window of brain development. Between the ages of 0 and 18, the prefrontal cortex is being wired based on the emotional climate of the home. When you make these mistakes repeatedly, you are literally hardwiring a stress response into your child's nervous system. They develop a belief system that says, "The world is not a safe place to be myself." If you miss the chance to correct these patterns now, the cost is astronomical. By the time they reach adulthood, these beliefs are no longer just thoughts, they are personality traits. It's like a tree growing at an angle. When it's a sapling, you can gently guide it back to center with a small stake. But once it's a 100-foot oak, you can't change its direction without breaking it. Think of your relationship with your child as a bank account. Every time you dismiss an emotion, every time you use shame to get them to behave, you are making a massive withdrawal. Eventually, the account goes into the red. And in the real world, that looks like a teenager who won't talk to you, or a 30-year-old who only calls on holidays. This impacts their career, their future marriage, and their own ability to parent. Research from the Gottman Institute shows that parents who practice emotional coaching rather than emotional dismissal have children who are physically healthier, perform better in school, and have more stable friendships. The difference is night and day. So, what is the exclusive solution? In high-performing emotional cultures, they use a method called the C.A.R.E. protocol. This stands for connection, autonomy, repair, and empathy. This isn't soft parenting, it's scientific parenting. It's based on the attachment theory work of Dr. John Bowlby. The goal isn't to be a perfect parent, but to be a responsive one. Instead of saying, "Stop crying, it's not a big deal," the C.A.R.E. method says, "I can see you're really upset. It's okay to feel that way. I'm right here with you." Notice the difference? The first one shuts the door. The second one builds a bridge. Let's look at how this works in real life. Imagine your teenager comes home late for the third time this week. The science backs this up 100%. A massive study from the Harvard Center on the Developing Child followed thousands of families over 3 decades. They found that the single most important factor for a child's long-term success wasn't their IQ. It wasn't the neighborhood they lived in. It was the serve and return interaction with a primary caregiver. When a child serves an emotion, does the parent return it with validation? Group A, the control group, showed higher levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, which literally shrinks the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for learning and memory. Group B, the connected group, showed higher levels of oxytocin and vagal tone, which leads to better emotional regulation and even a stronger immune system. Now, I want to give you a detailed 4-week roadmap to transform your parenting. This is a rewiring process for you, the parent. Week 1, the awareness phase. Week 2, the validation phase. Week 3, the repair phase. Week 4, the autonomy phase. Imagine a morning in your house, say a frantic Monday in a suburb of Chicago. Remember, parenting is not a sprint. It's the longest marathon you will ever run. These 7 mistakes, dismissing emotions, confusing control with guidance, failing to repair, using shame, comparing, helicoptering, and neglecting the why, are all fixable. But they require you to be brave enough to look in the mirror. You are building a human being, not a product. To recap our 4-week plan, start tonight. When your child comes to you with a small problem, treat it like a big one, because to them, it is. If you found this script helpful, if it opened your eyes to a pattern you didn't know you had, then you've already taken the biggest step. Awareness is the seed of change. I'll see you in the next episode as we dive deeper into the science of raising resilient kids. Good luck, you've got this.